Hey everyone, it's me. I'm here at ConQA. Woo! Alright, so what have I been up to this week? So firstly, I thought I'd focus on two areas to approach. Based on my reading of the new book by Kate Paulk, The Blazing New Trails, Tips for Lone Testers. I'll put a link in it below. It's published by the Ministry of Testing and available on Amazon. So what are these two things I've been focusing on? Firstly, learning the current working practices. What do they do? How do they do it? So I thought, and with the advice from the book, that first I need to really understand how they do things and most importantly why they do things. Most processes have come into place because of a reason, because something went wrong or we needed to cope with this weird edge case or we had this limitation. So I need to learn what those reasons are. Are they still valid? And can they be improved, evolved, rather than ripped apart? So, learning how practices work, I've been looking at how the team is organised and how work is organised, looking at the way a ticket flows through, so when a piece of work comes in, who's involved. I've already been involved in some very early discussions. There seems to be a real brilliant culture of collaboration here, which is excellent. Getting involved, talking about the approach we want to take to solving the problem. Then working with the developers. I've done a little bit of peer testing already and been able to find some issues. We'll talk more about that later. I even wrote up my first bug. Awesome. And worked with the developer, Jesse, to determine sort of how the team tend to like those structured, what information they want, and what kind of ticket type they use, using a new tool, which I haven't used before, called Clubhouse, and getting familiar with that. Also done the regular whole bunch of figuring out how to log into every system that they use. There's a whole heap, as there is in any team nowadays, and that had its own challenges. Finding out that I'd left all my security codes and GitHub codes to get access behind me, so I had to create a whole new GitHub account. And so, moving on, the second thing I've really been focused on this week is getting to know the team, learning names, and learning who does what, not just in my team, but this being a startup, we've also got sales and product and business support functions in the same room, which is really great for me getting to know the product and getting to know the market. And so I've been getting to know everyone here and how they like to work. So one thing I've realized this week that is going to be a real interesting story to follow for a couple of weeks is the expectations of what a QA brings to a team. Because they've never had QA here before, they have no rigid QA process or expectations of a QA to meet a certain format that was already existent in the organisation. However, the devs all have their own opinions from previous workplaces or from community general and understanding of the industry that of how QA should operate. And so it's quite interesting to see the little comments and hints and suggestions and expectations that each different member of the team has of me. I need to understand those, try and fulfill those as best I can, as well as setting my own expectations slowly over time as to what is best QA practice and how that can work with the team and how they can work with me and we can get the best quality and confidence in the product. So I learned something awesome this week. I learned about a new tool. I'll tell you more about the tool in a moment. First, I'll tell you about how I needed to discover the tool and what was the problem I needed to solve. So I mentioned Jesse before. I was doing a bit of peer testing with him over a couple of his tickets. And one of his tickets was to add some validation in so that the app doesn't get in a hanging state. While he was working on putting in that validation, he also found why the app was hanging in that particular instance and resolved that as well. So when we come to test it, it wasn't easy to put the app in a state that would fire the validation. We could verify that it no longer found the original error that caused the hanging, but we couldn't make it fire the validation that he'd also added in. So if I'd been doing this on a mobile device, I'd be able to intercept the API calls using Charles and manipulate them and get it to return a 400 or 404 error. In this case, however, with the app being in the browser, I wasn't sure how to do that, whether Charles could do that. So I had to go away, do a bit of Googling, and I found a tool called Tamper. I'll put a link down in the doobly down below. What Tamper allowed me to do is exactly the same as with Charles. I could intercept the API calls coming out of the web app. It's just a Chrome plugin. And I could manipulate them before firing them off. So what I was able to do was find the API call that we were testing, change it to be an invalid API call, and get it to return a 400 error. This found a problem. This is cool. This is a good thing. So Jesse's investigating that now, and we'll come back when he's done some digging, and hopefully we've got a fix for it. Cool. So that about wraps up everything I've got to say for my first episode here in the offices at ConQA. So there's a few other things I want to talk about in the vlog, and I'll cover those in more detail, I think, in more vlogs in the coming weeks. So until then, see ya.